animal hunt that has many outraged tonight. We're talking about the black rhino and the price one hunter paid at a Texas auction to travel overseas to kill one of these endangered animals.
But in 2019, accusations emerged that they had funded park rangers that were implicated in murder, torture, and rape. A BuzzFeed investigation would starkly challenge the image of the WWF, with accusations they had funded eco-guards that committed human rights abuses and murder.
But they don't have the resources, and frankly, I think there's political opposition to them going up the line to get the higher-ups, because often those people are quite wealthy and well-connected, and the government doesn't really want to go after them.
Amidst these scandals, the WWF continues to receive funding from major corporations like Coca-Cola and IKEA, seeking to greenwash their image.
Indigenous peoples are very actively engaged in conserving the environments, their own ecosystems, because this is where they live. These are their traditional territories, and they have been the ones who have played key roles in conserving a lot of the biodiversity.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's me here, Lavender, and today I'm back with a different type of topic. Today I want to do a deep dive video into the dark present history of wildlife conservation and environmentalism, and the dark history and the past behind that, a deep dive into this topic. So let's get started into this video. So yeah, sorry I haven't been making any YouTube videos lately. I'm struggling to find video ideas. My similar YouTube videos related to this topic will be on the screen right now if you'd like to check them out after you watch this video. So yeah, let's get started into this video. So yeah, South Africa is home to 70% of the world's 29,500 rhinos, and rhino poaching for their parts and selling it on the black market has increased significantly in recent years. According to the South Africa Department of Environmental Affairs, poachers killed a total of 1,028 rhinos and 67 elephants in the Kruger National Park in 2017 alone. African elephants are facing extinction within a few decades, with the rhino following closely behind. Unless an immediate and drastic change take place, they could be gone. Recognizing the vulnerable situation of the African elephant and rhino, many game reserve owners and anti-poaching units have resorted to protecting these animals through the use of firearms and often altercations that can turn deadly. However, this approach to eliminate poaching can breed a cycle of violence and does not solve the root of the issue. The matter of poaching is not a one-dimensional issue, and it is largely rooted in poverty. For years, colonizers looted Africa of their riches via colonization and brutal imperialism. According to Bruka's tribal people, a black person coming from communities earns maybe 5,000 rand a month. That same person could get 250,000 for shooting a rhino. Demand for illegal rhino horn and ivory from overseas rich buyers continues to increase despite the government bans on international trade. For 1,000 plus years, the tribes of Africa had an enduring, beautiful relationship with the land, not just in Africa, but all over, the world, indigenous people as a whole, all over this earth. It was not until colonization all over the world and later South African apartheid that the connection between land and people became more and more controlled and imbalanced by colonizer greed, pro-capitalist imperialists. It was only in 1994 that the apartheid officially ended, but the classism, elitism, and racism persist in various ways in different forms. Kill a poacher, save a rhino is a common phrase on bumper stickers, billboards, and signage in South Africa and all parts of Africa and towns that border and are near the Kruger National Park, one of the largest game reserves in South Africa. The towns, while small with approximately 3,000 people, has grown in recent years due to the proximity of private game reserves and growth in ecotourism as a significant contributor to the local economy. Conservation is largely a white man's game in South Africa, in that it is mostly the white population who own game reserves and also have a stake in preserving wildlife. According to locals, poachers have been known to mutilate the bodies of rhinos and elephants that they kill as to send a message to the colonizer conservationists who they feel place more value on wildlife than the lives of those in the black community. Why is racism being normalized in conservation? According to people online, when a person is unlawfully killed to protect an endangered species, the appropriate response is to celebrate their death because it helps keep our precious rhinos and tigers and elephants safe. Armchair imperialist colonizer environmentalists proudly declare how readily they would be to sacrifice black bodies halfway across the world to save an animal they may have ever only seen on television or in a zoo. Killing of innocent people, including children in Africa and Asia, are airily dismissed as collateral damage in a battle to protect nature by colonizer imperialists. Black lives don't matter to imperialists, a case of racism via conservationists. A local African man had issued a desperate plea to the organization which runs New York's Bronx Zoo after a 7-year-old son was shot dead by a park guard. The boy and his father were gathering medicinal plants for their culture and their practices with his father in Baji National Park in the Democratic Republic of Congo. An anti-poaching squad opened fire on them. The father managed to escape with severe wounds, but while son Mobe Christian was killed at the scene. The guards received logistics support, funding, and training from the Wildlife Conservation Society, WCS, a big conservation body which is a parent organization of the New York Bronx Zoo. According to international law, the WCS's own human rights policy, indigenous peoples' consent is required for conservation projects on their land. Between the 1960s and 1980s, authorities violently and illegally evicted up to 6,000 native Africans from the park. For a lot of conservationists and their organizations, Black lives don't matter. In the name of conservation, agents supported by world-renowned nature groups like the Wildlife Conservation Society, the WCS, and the World Wildlife Fund, the WWF, have tortured and murdered dozens of innocent people, including children, the elderly, and people with disabilities. Eco guards, park rangers, and even government officials have burned down villages, bulldozed houses, gang-wrecked women, stolen possessions, beat up people, and maimed people for life. People simply don't believe this is happening because they cannot fathom how cuddly panda conservationists could possibly be guilty of racism and violence. The WWF and the WCS and other international environmental nonprofits have been aware of these atrocities for many years. As they continue to fund, equip, and train the perpetrators that kill and murder innocent Black lives, when confronted with evidence, the conservation capitalist big giants simply arrange cover-ups and try to cover up the situation and hide it from people. Typical of these imperialists, the WWF for nature is keeping evidence of brutal crimes under wrap. Anti-poaching guards have gang-raped pregnant women and tortured villagers, according to the charity's own investigators. Journalists have been threatened and their identities have been concealed for exposing these heinous crimes that they're trying to cover up. Conservation suffers from the racist delusion that non-white people in Africa and Asia don't know how to look after their own land and cannot be trusted with animals there. In India, Indian conservation authorities have banned the recognition of tribal rights in tiger preserves, a move that has provoked widespread condemnation. Tens of thousands of Indian tribal people have been illegally evicted from their villages inside tiger reserves and forced to live in poverty and misery in the fringes of mainstream society. The message is that African wildlife is in danger, and the source of danger is Black people, and that people from the U.S. have to come and save wildlife from those Black people. National parks optimize the racism of conservation, first created in the United States in the 19th century. They are perpetrated on the notion that nature is untouched wild wilderness until white people discovered it. The superiority complex of the colonizers blinded them to the fact that thousands of indigenous people all over the globe and all over this earth, people are not just living on the land, but actively using, shaping, protecting, and nourishing it. Both in the 19th century America and much of Africa and Asia right now, conservation means original indigenous peoples cannot live on their ancestral lands, but tourists can visit on holidays for vacation. Locals are forbidden from hunting for food. In places where foreigners hunt for sport, indigenous communities are banned from using resources they depend on to survive. The fact that 80% of the planet's biodiversity today is in tribal territories is a testimony to the ability to maintain ecological equilibrium and healthy wildlife populations. And on to environmentalism's hidden racist dark history of the past. Madison Great has history, however he is often remembered for another reason. His 1916 book, The Passing of the Great Race, or the Racial Bias of European History, a pseudo-scientific scientific work of white supremacism that warns of the decline of the Nordic peoples. His work influenced the Immigration Act in 1924, which restricted immigration from Eastern and Southern Europe and Africa and banned migrants from the Middle East and Asia. Adolf Hitler wrote Brandt an admiring letter calling the book My Bible, which has given it permanent status on the ultra-fascist right. Anders Breivik, a Norwegian extremist who killed 69 young Labour Party members in 2011, drew on Grant's racial theory in his own manifesto. It is very creepy, honestly, and concerning that white colonizer war criminals that fought in the United States' army and the United States military, imperialist, bloodthirsty military, going overseas to Africa to shoot black people. Poacher hunter Kinza Johnston, she was quoted in saying, "We're going to do some anti-poaching, kill some bad guys, and do some good." She's one of the former soldiers in VETPA, a group started by an ex-Marine veterans to Africa to defund terrorism. But the thing is, the United States imperialists who have served in the U.S. military are the real terrorists. You know, they're imperialists. They're fighting wars based on lies. They're supporting the United States military. Like, they're the real terrorists. Green capitalism and green militarism is not saving anything. No, local people, including tribal people, have long been thought by some conservationists as in a way of the environment. They're termed poachers and abused accordingly. Innocent people are persistently criminalized for living off the land. For example, when Botswana's president evicted the Bushmen from their ancestral lands in 2002, the government and its cronies, including some of the British Parliament, repeated ad nauseum that the tribe hunted from tracks with high-velocity weapons. It was a intervention, as officials admitted in court later, that the Bushmen hunt with spear or bow and arrow to feed their families and don't threaten wildlife survival. Any excuse to harm black people, typical colonizers, rich white people. They are almost invariably white, pay to shoot pretty much anything. Black hunters, on the other hand, face arrests, beatings, and death. Botswana is one of the many tourist destinations that have a shoot-on-sight policies. It's impossible to get facts when park guards kill poachers. Rangers claim that they were fired on first, and no one alive can say differently. Conservationists actually profit from trophy hunting, as infamously shown, in which a member of the Dallas Safari Club paid $350,000 to kill an endangered black rhino in Namibia. Capitalism is just putting profits over lives every single day, once again, and capitalism is true evil. Capitalism destroys biodiversity. Capitalism is the cause of climate change, etc.